Welcome back to Humble Pie. I'm your host, Jimmy D, and we're here today again with some Union Arena content. Me and my friend Marcus, who is probably one of my best testing buddies and one of the best persons, honestly, to play a lot of different decks to get and find and tune all what Union Arena decks that we have available to, which is, by the way, every single one that has currently been printed up to this point. One of the things I love about the LifeLink community and with the Union Arena, we build every single deck, we test them out, and we try our best to try and figure out what exactly is considered the best deck, because there's not a lot of data out there for the Union Arena decks and what's going to be topping. And I've always been saying on my channel, it's like there's just not enough time for us to practice everything in all the decks and say which one's more consistent, which one's least consistent, what are the bad matchups, what's the good matchups, what's a good meta deck to bring into here. And there's so many different things that you want to take into consideration. And for all of you who might be going out to the Nationals event that's coming up February 14th, yes, Valentine's Day, they're going to be having the Nationals Championship for Union Arena. Myself and a couple other people that I'm traveling with did qualify for the event, so we're going to be out there trying to see if we can get ourselves on the top of the event. And in order to do that, we need to test these decks. We need to find out what's good. We need to find out what is the best run. And right now, you're going to see a series of videos now following what just concluded the last testing event with me and Marcus going back-to-back playing best 2 out of 3. One of the things that we thought would be the easiest to try to make a quicker route of it is to play a deck until it loses, run it through a gauntlet of what we would say is probably the 10 best decks out there. I'll be making a video probably right as soon as I finish all these other little test events. They're going to say what I think are the current 10 best decks post January 30th, which is going to be the introduction of the Evangelion set and the Volume 2 for Sword Art Online. Both are expected to put some kind of an impact on the format. Both have some special decks that are going to be pretty prevalent and coming out there. You might have already seen one from the song deck that I already did previously with Lotus, and he was practicing with his song, or what they call I can't remember. It's a purple deck that came out there that they call it song overseas, but over here it's I forget the name of it, but it's a brand new color that's being introduced into the Sword Art Online set. It is very, very consistent. It draws right through its deck, and it does a lot of things that you're going to see today in today's video, where we're going to cover the Sukuna matchup. Sukuna versus the Red Evangelion deck. This is one of the few decks. There's apparently 3 really strong decks in the Evangelion. We're building those decks and trying to proxy them right now to see how well they do. Of course, we play them in between rounds. If you guys want to join us live, you can see, like last week or the last week that I did those things live, I played in the regular tournament with a real competitive deck, and then in between that match, because the games were so quickly, I pulled out a test deck and we just ran the test deck against it and tried to see how green GGO would do in these new meta upcoming meta, because there's a lot of practice I want to get with it. I want to get to, 1, understand how the deck operates, 2, what are the weaknesses of the deck. The best way to find the weaknesses is honestly to play with the deck, because there's going to be more things that frustrate you when you play it than when you play against it. I'm sure that there's going to be things where you say, man, it was really strong, it did all these things, but you're not seeing what's going on behind the scenes, where it's like, man, these energy lines aren't lining up right. These plays are very awkward that put me in a suboptimal position. And sometimes it's really confusing and frustrating when you're behind the scenes, but you don't want to communicate that to your opponent because it's a kind of a tell. So you're not going to see that unless you experience having what it is on the opposite side. So if you're out there and you're testing with your friends, definitely, even if it's a deck you don't plan on playing, pick it up so you understand what might be some tells, maybe the field lineup that might be lining up in that second tier of game TCG playing that I'll be going over on Patreon. It really applies to understanding what your opponent might be going through to see if you can capitalize on it, just by understanding the game state and how the deck operates. But the second tier is really just, you need to know what this deck does in order to know when to respond to certain things, or when you might want to go off, or what you could be expecting in response. So if you're going on this explosive turn and you're trying to fill the board up, what is the potential that your opponent just takes that all away from you? And what is a risk versus value gained on that explosive turn? Did you get 1 point of damage just by going off like that and then lose your board? Or did you put in a significant chunk and realize it can only take off about maybe 2 or 3 points? But I digress. The point is you're going to see a lot of these videos. There's going to be best 2 out of 3. You're going to see videos that probably reuse the same deck text as I talk about these things in the beginning. A little intro to say, hey, please like, subscribe, and whatnot, and get back into it. But I really want you guys to take from this, take a look at these deck lists, especially pay attention when we're doing these test decks, because I'm going to be going over every single card in the deck. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to be trying to display the card on my phone on the table. It's not perfect. I don't have a great lot of time to myself or the editing skills to really do what I want to do, which is flash that card up there, and every time someone plays a card, put the thing up there. That would be optimal if I had infinite time and infinite money all the time to do that stuff, but I would 100% like to do that. But during the video, you're going to be seeing a lot of music over the background, so you can watch the plays. You can see the card on my phone, look for that to see what it is that I happen to be playing. And if you want to, you can take up this deck list, which you can find on Patreon for absolutely for free, or on my experts.dev account that I have for these things. Of course, the Asian ones are going to be found on Patreon because I really don't. I have an account for the Asian one, but it's a little bit more awkward to navigate you to my Homebrew Pi account on the Asian one, and that's the one I have to use to look at the new decks that are up and coming, because obviously Evangelion and the new Volume 2 are not completely released on the American side of experts.dev. So you want those deck lists, go ahead and check those out. They're ever moving pieces. I'm trying my best to give my own take on it. There's a little bit of nuance when it comes to red. There's like 3 different decks you can make for the red Evangelion deck. This one I thought on paper, when I was looking at all the effects, seemed to be the most consistent. And you're going to look at the numbers with me and check out these stats so you can see exactly what I was looking at to say, hey, this one seems like it might be able to put in the most amount of damage based on what it's trying to accomplish, it being that red deck, and high cost one with that. Guys, let's get into the deck list for this round here. Marcus, we're going to start off with the Sukuna deck. This one highly pumped up with the unrestricted ban that just got announced here just about a month ago, or just under a month ago, where now the blue JJK no longer has a restricted deck constraint, because apparently it's not near as powerful anymore. Is that true? Let's find out. So like I said, starting off with Marcus, the best blue JJK player that I can honestly say exists. This man is by far one of the best players. He understands the sequencing. He understands the draw mechanics. He's played this one to extreme. He's won several different events in our locals with this. And honestly, I can't find a better pilot than him on this deck. We've worked a lot to try to help him maximize the rarities on this deck and chase after basically making this thing really nice. Because this was one of his first decks that he got into when he got into Union Arena, and he dominated with it. We did find out that yes, the ban where it was preventing you from playing the 2-cost here UG along with a certain Sukuna, you wouldn't be able to have those two in the same deck. So not having this enabler for consistency actually kind of drove the deck into a lot more losses than what it deserved to get, because it is a very strong deck. Blue, what's it like to do? It likes to draw. Drawing is good. You want to turbo through your deck. This one specifically wants to turbo through its deck because its ultimate goal is to probably put as many Sukuna fingers in the trash as possible. If you have them in hand, you can rest a UG to draw a card and restand an AP, which is just like cycling. But you want these things in the graveyard regardless. So having 4 copies of those in that graveyard, and the fact that it has a draw card trigger, really nice in life. But you don't want these in life. In this deck, you do not want these in life. That is a weakness that this deck has. If for any reason 2 of those fingers are trapped in the final couple of hits that your opponent's going to be doing against you, you're probably going to be too far behind in order to actually get the win. So you're going to want to see some early draw discards, pitching the Sukuna's finger in the yard, or something that's allowing you to get this thing turbo into your deck. Because you have cards like this Malevolent Shrine that really make Sukuna the overwhelming card that can keep up, in my eyes anyways, in today's meta. You have the ability with 2 or more to get damage 2. You got 3 or more, you get snipe, and 4 or more, you get impact. So you get impact and snipe. It is impact +1, notably. You want to pay attention to that +1. That means if he gives it to an impact character, such as this one and the Raid Sukuna, he can give this impact ×2. So double damage or impact ×2, really devastating. A lot of decks don't have impact ×2 or double damage ×2, which puts you in that awkward situation where you don't want to block, but you say you don't if that's the case, but you're taking 2 regardless. You don't have an option. Usually with double damage, I can take the option to throw something to the bus, and then I don't take the 2 damage. This one, you're taking 2. And given that it has snipe on top of that, with that impact, if you have all 4, it's just absolutely board breaking for you in a decision-making situation, because now he's going to take the key piece that he wants away from you as a form of removal, get the double damage off of you in your life, and really take the tempo in its favor to closing the game, which I think you might see in some of these games that we have with the Sukunas out here. There's just these cards are absolutely tremendously powerful. Very cheap to get out. I mean, it's a 4-cost raid, which you couldn't really ask for better. I love these 4-cost low to the ground raids, something that we're seeing a trend, especially with the new Evangelion and the new GGO. A lot of these raids are kind of high cost, which makes sense because you're giving them a lot of powerful abilities. But when you have to rely on a energy line to go off like that, that can be considered a weakness. And this one, its highest curve, I think, is 7. Very few of these that you want, because obviously you're not going to be playing too many of these. You're going to try and use these as a finisher. I really don't like this as I would never put this as a 4 of. I would probably even cut it down to 1 based on the consistency here, just to get your double pips up, because some of these cards are absolutely really strong. Yuji Itadori at the 5 cost, and maybe the Sukuna at the 5. But it has a lot of double pip enablers, something that honestly a lot of decks kind of struggle with. I know that I'm playing Hashira. It really annoys me how difficult it is to get double pip cards, these 2 energy producers, if you will, and get a number of these that can be considered decent raid targets or decent engines for the deck. Whereas like in when it comes to like Hashira or something, the double pips usually don't have a trigger, or if they do, it's the effect is negligible at best. It doesn't really do anything to really power up the deck. So you're playing what's essentially a vanilla double pip just so you can have access to double pip. And this one, you've got something that could be a 4K swing if you want to, if you have a Sukuna's fingers out. You got the color trigger that allows you to generate even more if you have a finger in the yard. This one that generates more energy here, or reduces the cost, I'm sorry, if from the front line. You have the wind play to draw a card and place 1 card from your hand to the sideline. So again, you're turboing through your deck. You've got this amazing with trigger draw discard card that you absolutely need to have in every single Union Arena deck. If your color has it, I don't care if it's on theme, the 0 cost should have the draw discard. This will prevent the most amount of like auto game losses and sometimes get you out of a clutch. Not to mention, you really are trying to craft your hand to the perfect curve if you possibly can. And in this deck, when you want to pitch these Sukuna's fingers, there's no better cards than draw discard. This is the one that was banned before, and the more consistent deck out here, because this one allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal the Sukuna finger, so you get to dig through, grab the Sukuna finger immediately, or a Malevolent Shrine if you want, and put that into your hand and sideline, and then put the rest in the bottom of your deck in any order. So, tremendously powerful. It digs right to the key answers, gets you right to what the deck is trying to do, get those Sukuna fingers out there, and really increases the consistency of it. We have, of course, what we've already gone over, the Sukuna here. You've got the ones that have the impact, and of course, when played, you get to draw 2 cards and place 1 from your hand to the trash. Awesome. You have the one that gets, when played, you can rest one of your opponent's characters and freeze it for the turn, which can be extremely devastating in certain board states, especially if you hit a raid target, resting something, making sure it can't do anything, or sometimes just putting a relevant piece and forcing it to take up a slot during your opponent's next turn, preventing from an all alpha swing that might have come in the next turn. And at the very, very top end here, the Sukuna 7 cost impact. When played, you get to choose. Let's see if I can move this over here. No. All right. When played, the abilities below, based on the number of fingers you have in the graveyard, or if you're your sideline, you get to draw a card, and your opponent places 1 card from the hand into the sideline. Awesome. Discard. Very little decks can do that, but very powerful. All characters with 2,500 or more BP in your opponent's front line lose 2,000 BP. So now nothing can basically block in favor. And choose up to 1 character with 3,500 or less BP in your opponent's front line and sideline it. So now you have even additional removal, which is, in my personal opinion, is the only thing that this thing lacks on the current. Well, 2 things that this deck lacks in the current. What I'm calling your consistency creep that we're seeing within this deck and in this game. A lot of decks are getting up to having at least 8 pieces of removal, which is kind of essential for a lot of decks because you need answers to like the Roy Mustangs or the big threats with the massive damage from Lancelot or some of the other threats out here. I want to be able to handle this 5,000 attack character. I can't just let that sit around. Like, you need answers for these big hitters that people are playing out in these new decks. And if you don't have at least 8 pieces, the consistency of you seeing it when the threat arises is significantly low, and that can cost you the game. These things can dominate the game overall. So you need more answers for that. And this deck does kind of makes up for it in the Malevolent Shrine, which is this continual activation ability where you can kind of give it the snipe, impact, and damage. It really does kind of help here. But in reality, this is really only working with these 4 Divergent Fists and maybe 2, but not at the 4K power that a lot of the decks out there can usually handle. They usually have 8 or more pieces of removal that can handle 4K more, 4K or more type characters. So this one still good, 3,500. A lot of people playing very rush nowadays, so lower BP characters in the front line is very common, especially if you're playing against like the new Rurouni Kenshin deck and the rest of the other small rush decks that you're going to see. There are more and more people. Even this own deck, it's only during well, this one's during your opponent's turn, but there's a lot during your turn only to get a buff. So during your turn, it like, okay, cool, they can get rid of these cards that get a boost on their own player's turn. And there's quite a few cards like that are currently seen play. So this will have its potential getting rid of something, which is, again, always important. And it is a Sukuna target, so you can level a Shrine and just do that double damage. The deck's consistency, where it lacks is in the beginning. Now, obviously, after Mulligan, 98% is very strong. Something you definitely like to see. This means only a 2% chance of having a non-ball game or just an inability to play it. 85 is probably one of the lowest for a competitive new deck out here. That first hand, usually want to not have to rely on it, but it's good to know that given the mulligan and the first 14 cards, there's really a 98% chance that you're not going to have some kind of zero cost or capability of playing the game in some manner or fashion. Tier energy cost, 58 is kind of normal. It's these cards up here. There is no one cost in this deck, which I'd say it kind of a detriment because you really want those zeros and one cost to complement each other. But as fast as this deck moves through itself and the draw power, it becomes less and less relevant. And especially since most of the deck is below the curve of 4, and you have very limited targets in the top end, they end up needing more than 4 energy, which is basically your average or typical here. But turn 2 playable cards, 99%. It's really strong. I like the curve on this deck. It's very good. It's very efficient. Now we're going to get into the trauma bonding. This is the deck list that I copied over from the AsianExperts.dev, to build a deck and test the deck to see how good is the Shinji Rei deck work. I saw some of the cards in here. They seem arguably some of the best effects you can have in this color. And there was a lot of consistency with it I liked. I really enjoyed the... obviously, it's a lot lower than the Sukuna deck, but there's some great cards in here that the calculator can't account for. So one of the things that I just absolutely want to point out is this Shinji Ikari, which is throwing that count down there below. It's what's making it a little bit less consistent is what you'd think. It's 73 is counting the 0 cost and the 1 cost. There are a lot of low cost cards, but this one runs 4 copies of what that consistency creep that I've been talking about in several other videos is currently in Union Arena. You have this ability that if there's no cards out, this is a 0 cost. So even if you have a 0 cost in hand, the first card you play is this one. Not only do you get to play this 2 cost out into play for the 0 cost ability, but also comes with the ability to scry 1, and those that haven't played Magic, it means look at the top of your deck, put it in place at the top or bottom. That's, or say, your deck or in the outside area, so your sideline area, excuse me. So this is Surveil. In Magic terms, I was looking at the top. Do I want to keep it there, or do I want to put it in the trash and the sideline? So this one, the Surveil, absolutely disgusting. You definitely want something that allows you to feed the yard, which this deck really relies on. We'll go on those effects. On top of that, it allows you to fix your hand. So if in a pinch, Shinji was one of the few cards that you had in hand that was going to help you play that turn, now you have an ability to make sure that your next draw is more likely what you're looking for to keep playing the game, and you don't have any of those disgusting Nambo games. So those at home that might be asking, what does it say Nambo? I'm saying that just wasn't a game. There wasn't worth playing. The player didn't play any cards. I rushed the board, I killed him, and knocked him out of the game. And it does happen a little bit in this game. Not as much as you'd think. I mean, I do think that they've taken out a lot of things, but unfortunately, variance being what variance is, there will always be turns where you just can't do anything. And I don't think that there is, honestly, a way that you can completely, perfectly get rid of it. Magic's never going to be able to figure it out. The Disney Arcana tried to. That never really figured it out. Yes, you could ink and make sure you could play cards, but even if you wanted to play those cards, could you afford to get rid of those cards? The same dilemma kind of exists. So I'm okay with it. I think in the most end, if you're building your decks properly, you should have something down here on your mulligan that has a high play rate of at least 93 or higher. Again, this honestly should be about 96 because it's not counting the Shinji appropriately. It doesn't recognize the text of the card. So these numbers are a little skewed. But you'll see in a top tier deck, if you're building something and you have anything less without this figurative math issue in your deck, you're probably not building the deck properly. So go back to the drawing board, make sure that you get your consistency rating up, because you can't afford to play in major events and just have this opportunity where you're just not going to play the game. And it doesn't make anybody feel good. It doesn't make the winner feel good. It doesn't make you feel good. At least if you're a good person. Like honestly, every time my opponent can't do anything, I'm not excited. I'm kind of more disappointed. I'd like to see how well my deck can do. All right, going into one of the cards, I think this one is a common card that you'll see quite a bit in every other color. You have a 0 cost, it has no trigger, and you can set it to resting at your end of your main phase. You have to sacrifice this, but it produces an additional energy generation to make it a double pip till end of turn. What makes this one really good is it fits in the theme. One, because you want to have Ray in the trash for some of the other top end cards. Two, because you're enabling something that you could potentially raid upon. A lot of problems I've seen with these cards in the previous sets, you had cards that did this that didn't have a raid option or something. Now, blue purple code Kias, probably one of its most powerful moves, is using the CC to do that, to cheat out a Gwaine and get out really quick and get some massive damage in. It's arguably one of its strongest starts. But that was because the CC could be raided by the Gwaine. Some of the other decks, like the Crow from Hashira, or some of these random other characters that had this ability in these colors, they didn't have an option for you to raid on top of it, so you were going to lose this at the end of turn, which can be a deficit. Not to mention, not having a trigger also really hurts. So most times cards like this don't see play, but you will see this see play because it has synergy with the deck of adding a Ray at a 0 cost into your trash for the top end we'll talk about, and on top of that you have the ability to save it with a 4 cost that you can go on top of it with this Evangelion unit 00. This one with double block and 4k power, very, very strong, especially against the current meta that's playing with a bunch of low to the ground rush weenie stuff. You get that double block out for pretty cheap. You can get this out as early as turn 2. And on retires, if they have an answer for it, you get to replace it. So you basically draw 2 cards, place 1 card from your hand to your sideline, and if you did play up to one of your Ray required energies of 1 or less from your sideline back into your field rested. So you get it instantaneously back. You lose this on a retire if you end up falling into a special from life, or if they remove it, you can get this immediately back, or you can get the 1 cost Ray back here that has an on play. Look at the top 3. You get to put 1 card in the into your removal area and place the other 2 back on top of your deck in any order. So nice little surveil 3, if you will, but you have to pitch 1 in your yard or your sideline for this one, which is really good for this deck, especially since you're trying to put Rays in the yard. This deck wants to put the 0, the 1, the 2, and the 3 cost in the yard, because when you get to some of the 7 costs that I keep alluding to, this requires those different costs Rays in your graveyard or in your sideline to be attached underneath it to give it certain abilities. There's a lot that can be done with this, especially if you combo this with a special or some other card effects. You can add cards to the bottom of this Evangelion raid here, and if you have 4 or more of those cards, which means you have a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3 underneath it, you can get 2 of those to your hand, and if you do this, it can attack again. It has a really cool ability with 0 cards in your hand on your turn. It's a 10,000 attack, so nothing's blocking this thing. Impact 3, which on paper, if everyone sees Impact 3, they're like, that's just so busted. You take a 3 damage. Impact means you don't block. So there's literally, you're gonna take likely 2 points of damage if your turn you've got 2 underneath it, and you can add 2 cards to your hand. Now in an optimal crazy game state, and you have 6 cards underneath this thing, and you go for the first attack, you add 2 cards to your hand, you reset it to attack again, then you add 2 more cards to your hand, so now you're up 4 cards, you're swinging again. You could potentially get three swings out of this Evangelion, obviously not just from its own ability, but you'd have to have other cards that enabled you to put these cards underneath the Evangelion unit before it was raided upon by Shinji. I digress. This is arguably one of the strongest characters out there, nice little 5,000 power. It does have a downside in 2 different areas. One, it's 7 cost, which I'm not a big fan of red playing something that needs 7 or 8. We're seeing a lot of these weird needing high expenses in colors that don't make sense. Green used to be the one you needed the high amount of energy producers in order to play these things. 7 cost, to me, you're relying heavy on making sure you have double pips. Now, this deck does a decent job of making sure it has access to a decent number of double pip potentials, but I almost don't even think enough, because the amount of consistency you need to get this thing out, you really want this to be like your top end finisher, your last card you're playing, trying to close the game out, if anything, type of card. And I'm glad that this deck kept it at 2, because they saw the same thing I did. While this card is incredibly powerful, you don't want too many of these cards, because if you have too many in your deck, you're not going to do anything, guys. It's too much high cost in your hand that if in the early game especially you're not setting up your end game, you're just going to fall behind. And this is the kind of deck that Red Kenshin abused when it initially got thrown in the meta. I mean, it was taking out decks that needed to rely on the energy line and rely on that setup, because they could deploy characters to the front line and start attacking and immediately step back if necessary the first early turns and get some early swings in. And then, of course, he goes wide with the double attackers. So, while this does do a lot that I like that Red does, there's things that can get more used against you if you have too many of these in the opening game. So keep this as low as possible if you build this deck. We have another on play. We already went over this one. Of course, this one's a Shinji just because it's a raid target. We have the 2-cost Ray that has Nullify Impact, and of course you have 2 or more Rays in your sideline with different costs. This is a double pip and no trigger, unfortunately, but that is the case for a lot of these temporary double pips. You have Shinji, we already covered, which could be a 0-cost in hand to help you with consistency. You have Ray here on play. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Place any number of them into your deck on top or into your sideline. So easily filled up the yard, and of course has a great trigger to it and double pips. So this is going to be a must-have card that you want to see. This is arguably, in my opinion, one of the stronger cards in this deck altogether. It's a color trigger. If it's in your trash, you could discard 2 cards and pay 1 AP, and you get to bring it into play. So it's not technically a double AP, double action point. If it's in the sideline, it's just a 1 AP. And when you play it, you can swap this character. So you can deploy it to the front line and push this thing back to get the double pip that you want to play something bigger later, and maybe put in something smaller as a nice additional attack target. So it enables to make sure that if you have 4 energy, you want to get this thing up here and you're trying to grow to 6, this will make your deck significantly more consistent. This Shinji color trigger, absolutely insane. I love this card throughout everything, and I know that it is kind of costly for the discard too to get this thing going, but in a pinch, you're going to be able to get out the big cards and finish the game towards your top end with the ability to bring this back from the trash, which is, I think, personally, why this is one of the better decks that you're going to see from Evangelion as it releases. I already talked about the double block, where you get to draw 2 cards on retire. There's also removal out here. I like this one. In your main, if in the front line, you can basically retire this to remove something, and if you do, then it makes certain cards, or your Shinjis or unit 1s cheaper, but on retire you also get to draw 2. So even though you do discard some here, there's a lot of draw 2 cards abilities here. This one's a really neat one that fills your yard for those Ray targets that you might need, and on top of that, you're going to get 2 cards, remove a threat from the board, any kind of threat, and possibly make it easier for this thing to get some massive swings in when you get there. Other raid card that you might see here is the Impact Enabler, the 5 cost here. When attacking, rest any number of active cards in your energy line. So this is a kind of a neat ability. So all of your energy line is readied and up front. You can rest it, and if you rest 4 more energy, this character is a 7,000 power. If you have 8 magically in your back row, which means all of your back row are double pips, not easy to accomplish. But if you do that, it gets double damage too. So you have impact 1, double damage, always kind of scary. More than likely, you're going to have the plus 3k from this one. And I like that they kept the cheaper ones at the higher quantity in the deck here. Going to this Sight card, this one's kind of neat. It's 4 costs with a double pip. On play, look at the top 5 cards, reveal up to 1 card with unit 00 or unit 1, and name among them and add it to your hands and place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. So you get some more consistency here. Nice little 4 cost to get a double pip. Main, once per turn, choose one of your energy line and set it to active. Choose 1 card in your energy line. So this will basically help you enable that strong ability where you might have been trying to build your energy line. Now you can set it to active, so you can rest it to ensure that you're getting that 8 energy if you can possibly make it happen. This special is okay. It's okay. I'm not a big fan of what this one's trying to do. There's a lot of other stronger removals. This one costs 6, by the way. That's another reason I'm not a big fan of it. I like 4 cost removal because sometimes you're really trying to fight up against a wall and you want to have something that's at least more achievable. But 6 is fine. It does add some consistency to certain decks. Basically, this card can only be used if there's a Shinji out or a character with unit 1 in the name in your area. Choose one character your opponent's front line with 5,000 or less and retire it. And place 1 Ray from your outside area face down under a Shinji on your area. You do not have that does not have a face down card underneath it. So remember how we were telling you that you could put potentially more cards underneath this character? This special will add additional targets underneath if you raid upon the Shinji that has that Ray card underneath it. This one much better in my opinion, but 4 cost here, which is why there's only running 2 of them. Choose one character in your opponent's front line with 3,000 SPP. And retired unless there is a Shinji out or a unit 1, then it's 5,000. These I like. 4 cost, 5,000 or less. That's really what you're looking for. They recognize that yes, you can only have 4 specials. Pretty good. The 6 cost, I'm sorry, over here, is just not going to get you there. And this is one of the decks that actually I would recommend you in red to play a final trigger. Most red decks don't play final triggers. They don't need it. They're mostly fast and flow to the ground. Due to this being an energy required deck, you're going to need at least 4 final triggers in this one to make sure you can get there in the top end. You're going to need a couple extra APs. I hope you were able to check this deck out if you want to, and check it out on Patreon, or you can pause and read the card for yourself. I have the cards displayed. It's not easy to see, but I do have the card. When I play them, I will be clicking the picture on the phone, so you yourself will be able to follow along with these games as we play the best 2 out of 3 and find out which one's going to beat and keep the gauntlet going. Winner of this gauntlet is going to continue on to the next match, where we're going to be playing that deck versus the next intro deck. And I believe the next one is going to be Green GGO. So whoever loses this is going to pick up Green GGO from the new Sword Art Online and playtest that against the winner of this matchup. I hope you guys are ready to sit back and watch some gameplay. Hit the comment board if things that you think I screwed up on and things that you think I should change up in the way that I play the game. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm just trying to get better at the game just like everybody else, and I know that it's just always going to be a grind. So thanks for being here. Hit the like and subscribe button, and without further ado, let's get into this video.
Let's take a journey somewhere far, you and I, let's get out this place. A one-way ticket to the stars, follow our hearts, girl, without a trace. Cause we got something red, nobody else could get. Just say the word and I will meet you there. I'll take you anywhere, hold your hand if you're scared. Cause baby, you know we're the perfect pair. And I won't give up, cause I need you here. I just want your love, I wanna keep you near. So take my hand, and I'll guide the way. Just trust your heart, let it take you away, take you away. make it. We're gonna make it, I swear. Oh, I'll never break it. I'll never break this love we share. No, and I won't give up, 'cause I need you here. I just want your love. I wanna keep you near. So take my hand and I'll guide the way. Just trust your heart, let it take you away, take you away. Take you away. And I won't give up, 'cause I need you here. I just want your love. I wanna keep you near. So take my hand and I'll guide the way. Just trust your heart, let it take you away, take you away.
And that's going to do it for this round. If you've been here this long, hit the like and subscribe button. Help us out. We're a growing channel and just trying to get out as many TCGs and coverage for you guys at home. Brought to you mostly by the people you're seeing scroll over here, my Patreons. The ones that help me fund and do everything I can to try to expand this channel to cover multitudes of different TCGs that you are seeing here. You like the one you're watching now? That's great. We also have other things that you might like, from a broad spectrum of the Bondi to the new League of Legends, Riftbound games, and other independents like Alpha Clash. We like to cover as many games here, and I love all these TCGs. Most of the time I take part in. If you guys are liking this content, though, please help us grow, help us get into the point where we can improve our quality of content for you, and get to the point where you guys really get the product that you deserve. Thank you for being here, as always. This is going to be it for today. I hope to see you in the next video. That might be listed up here. I don't know, editor, can you help me out?